Hello and welcome to day 2 of the 7th IoTSF annual conference, the longest running dedicated IoT cybersecurity conference anywhere in the world. If you don't know me by now, let me tell you that my name is John Moore. I'm the Managing Director of the OT Security Foundation and also its co-founder. Once again, I have the honour of getting us started and being your host for the first session. And I thought I'd start by continuing where I left off yesterday with some high-level updates. And I'd like to go back to where it all began for us and start to look ahead a little, as our recent announcements are designed to make us fit for the future. So IoTSF was launched in September 2015, which means we are now 6 years old, and I hope that you'll agree with me when I say that IoTSF has truly helped drive the IoT security agenda on many fronts. We act as a cybersecurity ambassador and advocate, of course, but we've also helped our members, together with countless other companies, improve their security postures. We've also contributed to the development of emerging international standards and acted as an expert voice into regulatory work too. And we've been able to do that because we're incredibly fortunate to host a broad mix of expertise within our ranks, covering technical, procedural, aspects of policy, risk management, and much, much more, helping IoTSF create a global brand synonymous with our aspiration to be the home of IoT cybersecurity. And this feeds into our overarching mission, of course, of making it safe to connect, encouraging a build secure, a buy secure, and be secure mantra. That's just a quick reminder of the IoTSF's 3 BS's, in case you'd forgotten. Today, whilst the need for security is unquestionable, we still witness that the demand is lagging, and we need to do all we can to help drive up that demand through the stick of legislation, perhaps, but also the carrot of competition and market requirements. Yesterday, Trevor Hall and I spoke about the renaming of one of our major publications, the IoT Security Assurance Framework, our approach to pre-compliance. And furthermore, our exciting new initiative to create regional chapters. I stated IoTSF is going global, and we announced Bucharest as our very first chapter. And today, I can further add that we're also having conversations to extend chapters into India, China, and other regions too. With such an announcement, we anticipate the winds of change are blowing in our direction. And with that, we expect the way we operate to change too. Exactly how that will manifest remains to be seen. But what I can say is that IoTSF is evolving, and our aspiration to drive IoT security excellence harder, faster, and reach more places is moving up a gear. And we look to do that in the spirit of IoTSF, collaboratively, and with our members at the very heart of what we do. So it's an exciting time to be on the IoTSF Blue Team. One area that we focused on, because it's a basic hygiene factor and perhaps a barometer to IoT security progress in general, is the area of vulnerability disclosure. You have heard yesterday about the revised vulnerability disclosure best practice guide that we published in September. It was completely rewritten from the original version, reflecting in part how quickly things have moved on in this space alone. Congratulations to the Best Practice Working Group for generating yet another high quality and highly important publication, and we commend that to you for free download. Today, I'd like to announce the availability of our latest Vulnerability Disclosure Usage Report. It's the 4th iteration, as we've plotted the progress, or lack of it in some quarters, on the contemporary use of vulnerability disclosure policy. Initially within the consumer sector, however, this report has expanded the view slightly to look in part at enterprise and the B2B business model. It's sad to report, however, that the summary findings remain of great concern. Whilst we find that more firms are advertising a channel for vulnerability reporting, it is still a long way off the number it should be, that is, ideally 100%. 21.6% is woeful, and perhaps helps to justify the acute need for regulation in our increasingly IoT connected world. Last time out, we introduced a threshold test that has two stages. The first, the basic threshold, identifies the mere existence of a reporting channel. The second, which we call the extended threshold test, checks whether firms set expectations on the timelines for acknowledgement and resolution of reported issues. Whilst the headline number was 21.6%, meeting the basic test, this dropped to just 6.7% for the extended test. And that's surprising, as there's big brand names in that amber list too, just meeting the basic threshold test, which we identify in the report. And as for the red list, all I can say, it's far too long. The report is published today, so please download and read it. You'll also find it has very good commentary about how disclosure practice is evolving too. It provides some recommendation for key stakeholders across government, business, researchers and users. And perhaps as a final personal comment, I would add that earlier this year at one event, I was asked what advice I would give to a consumer looking to buy a piece of IoT equipment or product. And I simply stated that I would recommend that they check to see whether the company has a vulnerability disclosure policy. Whilst it's not a perfect inspection, it represents a simple proxy to check whether they care about the security of their products. Next, I just want to give you a short progress update on the work of our Smart Built Environment Working Group, or groups, as it comprises of 4 specific teams. The SBE group was set up shortly before the pandemic caused us all to go into lockdown. And in January 2020, we held an old school face-to-face physical workshop where the 4 subgroups were formed. One of the characteristics of the SBE working group that is both interesting and important from my personal perspective is that our audience is distinctly different from our established audiences. That is, the audience we are seeking to help is a user audience, which knows it needs to prepare for the IoT invasion, and as such, it needs educating about the technology as they fear its inherent vulnerability. And they also need help managing the risks during the procurement, installation, maintenance, and end-of-life phases. This also shapes the guidance which we are seeking to give them in a bid to accelerate their awareness and ability to manage those new risks. The subgroups have produced a significant amount of material in a slightly different form to what we have traditionally provided. Significantly, the working group has determined that more needs to be done in the context setting to help explain the changing environment, in addition to the more specific guidance which we typically provide. As such, we have moved from a best practice guide to the creation of a number of handbooks for some of the audiences. These, of course, also embed best practice guidance. Currently, those documents are undergoing a full review, as these are effectively new product types, and the thinking needs to be adapted to ensure their fitness of purpose. We expect those documents to be finalised next year. However, that's far from the full story. Whilst the publications are back in review, members of the working group have been engaged in a number of industry and sector-specific fora to help raise awareness of the issues and promote the aims of the working group in anticipation for those outputs. For example, just recently, James Willison, Vice Chair of the working group, and Jason Shaw, the Facilities Management Subgroup Lead, helped Building Magazine, a publication that's been in circulation for 200 years. They helped them launch the Construction Cyber Security Forum. Additionally, the working group's work will also feature at IFSEC International at the Security and Facilities Show between May 17 and 19 next year. And that's not all. This will also be preceded by a series of webinars to showcase each publication. Hence, plenty is happening alongside the regular production of publications, further supporting IoTSF's mission to make it safe to connect. Now, on the theme of looking ahead, it does give me great pleasure to share with you the finalists of the IoT Security Champion Award. The award itself recognises and celebrates good IoT security stewardship. And I'm delighted to tell you that we've got 4 worthy candidates in alphabetical order: Ngoka, Census, Crypto Quantique, and Explio. So good luck to you all. The winner will be announced on December the 9th at the TechWorks annual awards dinner in London. Perhaps we'll see some of you there in person, and I truly hope so. And a customary pause before we move on to our first talk of the day for a word of thanks to our sponsors. You really do make a difference, and we value your support highly. So it's a heartfelt thank you from me and the IoTSF team. Now, we've got a great lineup of speakers for you in this morning sessions. It's quite an eclectic mix. In a while, we'll hear an update on the European Union cybersecurity legislation before we welcome back an old friend and very popular speaker in Ken Munro. But before then, I have the pleasure in welcoming Kevin Song to take the floor and tell you how Xiaomi has implemented from here on, the newly named IoT Security Assurance Framework. Kevin, the stage is yours.